Kristan Hawkins, host of Explicitly Pro-Life podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today for this very special episode. I have two guests joining me today. Yes, two. We're getting very technically fancy here. They're both based in the great state of Texas, and I've asked them to come on to talk about the aftermath of the Texas heartbeat law. As you all know, a law went into effect September 1st in Texas that stops abortions when a child's heartbeat can be detected. The left, the pro-abortion left, went crazy, basically, claiming it was going to be the end of women's rights in all of Texas and possibly America, that women were going to be stuck being barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen with no career educational opportunities. There was going to be women dying left and right of back alley abortions. And they went to the Supreme Court. The Biden administration went to the Supreme Court. The Biden administration's Department of Justice told DAs in the state not to even enforce their own law, that they have sworn to enforce the laws of their state, told them not to do it. They've gone to the Supreme Court twice trying to get the court to stop this law from going into effect. It hasn't worked. Every single day, over 130 lives are being saved, and this has been happening for months now. And surprise, surprise, women are still free. So I want to hear from two excellent pro-life experts on the ground in Texas. What's going on? What's like? I'm going to get to Texas in a few weeks with my family, so I can't wait to be on the ground in Texas. I'm going to do some sort of live from Texas. But our first guest is Chelsey Youman. She is an attorney. She serves with Human Coalition Action. We have had the opportunity, Chelsey and I, to speak on a lot of different platforms, I feel like recently, especially in light of the Texas law. Her professional experience includes working as senior counsel and chief of staff for the First Liberty Institute, concentrating on religious liberty matters. She litigated there on behalf of hundreds of clients, talking about conscience rights. But we are so excited to have her fully in the pro-life movement and really just kicking butt in the pro-life movement there in Texas and across the nation. And then Lauren Enriquez is joining us. She lives in Houston. She is actually one of the first original regional coordinators of Students for Life. So OG Students for Life of America. One of the original regional coordinators. I got to meet her long time ago. And she served for a number of years with different pro-life organizations. So I finally was able to twist her arm to come back and work with Students for Life. And now she serves our deputy media strategist. So, and you've probably read lots of her work over the years. So thank you, Chelsey and Lauren, for joining me.
Thank you. It's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, okay, I am so excited because there's a lot of stuff that is out there. It's funny, I guess. Let's start with the legal challenges, because you've been really following that with Human Coalition Action. The Biden administration, the abortion movement, has asked the Supreme Court now, twice to stop this law from taking effect.
Yes, I mean, everybody immediately came up in arms. They got up their helicopters of pro-abortion activists. Planned Parenthood sued, Whole Women's Health sued, and then, of course, the DOJ sued. And there was a resounding response from the Supreme Court that the Texas Heartbeat Act, it can be enforced through civil rights of action. That is, civil lawsuits. That is a constitutional way for this law to stand. And then they said, DOJ, you have no right to sue Texas just because you don't like a law that their legislators passed. Get out of here. And so the DOJ...
Something like federalism, something the founding fathers set up,
Separation, yeah, exactly. So it's been really incredible to see the law stand. For me, I have to laugh because you guys and us were both there every step along the way. We testified for this bill. We played heartbeats on the floor of the Senate, where there was a 6-week heartbeat played in the womb, and then a 22-week heartbeat played, and they were indistinguishable. And it was this powerful moment for the members that really humanized the child in the womb, and that is what we're protecting. And then we told them, we said, this is a unique constitutional bill. It has unique enforcement mechanisms, and because of those mechanisms, it will stand. And it did. When the law was challenged, that is the only reason that this law continues to protect lives today, tomorrow, and hopefully in the future. is because of that private enforcement mechanism. And so we're really proud that it's working. We're excited it's working, and we certainly hope it's replicated in other states.
Wow. That's so I literally was typing a note to myself while you were talking. That is a video that needs to be made showing the indistinguishable difference between the heartbeats of a
They
child.
sound exactly the same. Our sonographer, she's so sweet, and she gets to listen to heartbeats every day in our clinic serving women. And she said the heartbeat range never changes, until the baby is born. Those heartbeats, they sound the same along the way. And of course, the left, who is the party of science, is trying to say these are electronic pulsing from potential cardiac tissue. And I'm like, okay, and a baby is a clump of cells. Like, you guys are the party of science here. Come on now.
Yeah, I heard they were using fetal cardiac pulse activity was. That was a new one for me, but I've been hearing that a lot. But yeah, that's a great. That's I think that we're making that into a video. Students will have done it. I've already sent the email. It's happening. So I think the law stands in effect. Is there currently? Are we still waiting on the Supreme Court? Like, is there a decision still going to come down on this law? Do you assume?
Yeah. So where we're technically at is. The law is unique, I mentioned, because it allows every single citizen in the state of Texas or organization to sue an abortion provider for illegally ending the life of a child with a heartbeat. And so when these groups went to sue and challenge the law, who are they going to sue? They can't anticipate which citizens are going to sue them or not, or which organizations are going to sue them or not. So they sued the government. And the bill explicitly says the government's not allowed to touch this bill. You can't enforce it. You can do nothing. Your hands are tied. So the Supreme Court threw out all those defendants, all the government defendants, and then all the private defendants who said, we aren't going to sue you guys. We promise. Well, we weren't planning to do that. So the only remaining defendant is the Medical Licensing Board of Texas. There is a question as to whether they can pull licensing for these abortionists. I think that's a misinterpretation of the bill. We helped draft it. It's not intended for that to be the case, but that's the last issue to resolve. But here's the beauty of the bill. The best case scenario is these medical board professionals are given an injunction and told you can't pull licensing for it. The rest of the citizens of Texas can still sue abortion providers for conducting illegal abortions. It doesn't really remedy their issue. So they're shut down. They are shut down. They're incurring unknown amounts of liability if they do choose to illegally conduct abortions in Texas, and they know it. And so it's a really impactful law because the beauty is they don't know who's going to sue them when, and so they have to comply or take that risk, and that's their calculated risk to take. Do you want to kill babies or do you want to move somewhere else?
That's significant. And I think it's almost sad that we actually got to this point because you can pass pro-life laws, but then if your district attorneys and your state governments don't enforce those laws, which is what happened in Texas, it's happened in other states where the attorneys generals, of the states just say, we're not going to enforce the law that our state has passed. It's a really interesting and sad state, though. You have to get to this point. But I love the creativity.
I'll add to that. I think this is one of the biggest reasons I would advocate that this private enforcement mechanism, which the Supreme Court just held up as constitutional, it's going to continue after Roe. We're looking at a post-Roe world and a post-Roe landscape, and post-Roe, you're going to have DAs refuse to enforce abortion laws. And so we have to have another route to go, and we have to think smart and think strategically and meet them head on. And this is one way that we can do that.
That's right. So let's talk about some of the numbers. Lauren, maybe you've got some numbers for us, but so how many lives are actually being saved a day since this law is taking effect? We know.
Well, yeah, there's new data out from the state of Texas on the lives that have been saved in just the first month that the heartbeat bill was in force, and that was September of 2021. So Dr. New, our great friend who analyzes all of this data every day, he released an article at National Review recently explaining that the first full month where the Texas Heartbeat Act was in effect showed that abortion was down 51% compared to September of the year before. So we often are hearing people say that, you know, if a COVID measure saves just one life, it was worth it. Well, this Texas heartbeat law is saving a lot more than one life. And a lot of the naysayers against the Texas heartbeat bill have been complaining, oddly, that maybe it's not worth it because it won't save enough lives. But I think this data that we're seeing out of the state of Texas, it shows us, of course, if it saved one life, we would be celebrating. But again, the abortion numbers are down very significantly in the state.
I think the one thing I'm looking here, this one says they think it's 75. The Heartbeat Act is preventing 75 abortions a day from taking place. I've heard like 130 or so. So, I mean, regardless, we are seeing dozens and dozens of lives saved every day.
Yep, that's right.
I mean, that was 100% worth it. 100% worth it.
And that's just one state. I mean, imagine if we were saving 51% of the children.
Imagine if Florida,
nationwide.
this great Republican state that says that they're like super conservative, would actually do it.
It's time to put your money where your mouth is, Florida.
Yeah, Santa, step it up, buddy, if you want to run for president.
That's right.
Okay, so we're saving dozens and dozens of lives. What has been, and I think what's interesting, what's happening in Texas, and why I wanted to do this show today, is because what's happening in Texas could very well be happening across the country come June. If the court does move to reverse Roe, we have several states, about 26 states we feel like could instantly ban or significantly reduce abortions in their states, whether they have pre-Roe trigger laws or bills that have been passed, like the Arkansas bill we were involved in last year, the Life and Conception Act. There's a lot of laws that can be passed, that have been enacted, that have been stopped. So we could see what's happening in Texas across the country. So I think we as pro-lifers need to be very, very cued into what's happening there in Texas. What's going on in terms of the pregnancy care networks? Are they seeing an increase of people, running into their centers, needing help and support? How are they handling that? Do any of you want to jump in on that?
Sure, I can jump in on that from our perspective. We operate a bunch of clinics in Texas serving women every single day. And this may surprise you guys, but it is steady. There has not been an increase at all in influx in women coming to seek out our services. And we were a little surprised by that the first month that the act was enacted. So we called some other pregnancy resource center friends and said, are you guys saying the same? And they were saying, actually, we've been slow. And we account for this in a few ways. The first being 76% of women that we serve say they're actively seeking abortion. They say, if my circumstances were different, I would choose to parent. And I think that we see that in their response to the Texas Heartbeat Act. Our clinic nurses say women on the phone are relieved when they find out they're past the date, because they might feel pressured by a boyfriend, pressured by a parent to go get an abortion. And instead they say, okay, it's off the table. That's not an option. What are my options? And then we can walk them through helping get employment, safe housing, affordable childcare, the resources that they really need to help stabilize their circumstances. But women
that's a profound statement.
Yeah.
Like, what you just said is something I've never thought of, but that's true, because there's a societal pressure there, we know, for a young unmarried girl who's in a crisis pregnancy to do the responsible thing. We know from Guttmacher data that an overwhelming majority of women who seek abortions feel pressure from partners or families, but we also know women, overwhelming majority, would choose to parent if their circumstances were different. So it's a relief. It's off the table.
Yep, you're hitting it right. I mean, that is what we're hearing. Women just breathe this sigh of relief. And you'll never hear that from the left. But these are desperate women who want help and support, not abortions. And so the response really affirms that truth that we're seeing in the clinics. Women are largely accepting of the law. The second thing women are doing is they are seeking out birth control in higher percentages. Multiple gynecologists have started reporting to the state that birth control is being sought out in the droves right now. And so women are smart, they're adaptable, they understand how sex and pregnancy works, and they think, okay.
Because it's usually like a brand new thing, I have to say, on campuses. It's like this new information.
Yes, you're like, okay, this is preventable to a certain extent. And so women are being, I would say, proactive and adaptive on that front. And then the third thing is one that's really sad and something that we grieve, and it's that women do go out of state to have abortions. And so the Texas numbers, of course, we don't account for women going out of state. We don't know how many women are going to Oklahoma, but many who call our clinics already have their appointments in other states, and we're working with them on that. So we need to continue to pray, but our post-Roe strategy has to address that. Our post-Roe strategies have to account for women going to what abortion providers are calling abortion destinations now.
Yeah. I mean, it's abortion tourism. I think we definitely even saw our team, I think, kind of just wrote a blog about this, uncovering it through our Abortion Free Cities campaign, where we found out the whole Women's Health there in Austin's offering free abortions. And then if it's too late for you, they will pay for your travel and for a free abortion to go to one of their other clinics in a state that is in Texas. And so, I mean, they're getting massive amounts of money, whether it's from like Warren Buffett or George Soros, or someone's giving them a massive amounts of money to pay for all of these abortions. So obviously still make it lucrative for them. But that's something we've got to address, is what happens when George Soros and Warren Buffett come together and fund all abortions. And abortions are free. What's going to happen when we have, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, saying, come to California and California taxpayers will pay for your abortions? It definitely shows us that the work isn't done. Have you seen anything stat-wise in terms of vasectomies? Like, I saw an article that got me thinking about it, that they said that the clinics that offer vasectomies were like increasing their marketing spends. And I thought that was sad and very interesting, though. But it was in response to this bill.
Yeah, we don't have any data on that point, but I have heard stories of men standing with women in solidarity over that, and that just gets to the heart of the fact that women who find themselves pregnant and need help, they do need support. They need supportive partners. And I think some of that begins with education before we get to that point, right? But you did hit the nail on the head, Kristan. I hope that groups like yours and ours, we have these post-Roe plans. We're seeing these trends, and we're going to account for those things. We're going to account for what we would call aiding and abetting an abortion without actually being the physical abortion provider. These groups like Lilith Fund and others who are funding and traveling women across state lines, they have to be held accountable. And our post-Roe plan accounts for that. That's something that we're going to be ready and willing to go on.
Yeah, Lauren, you're the expert in all things Texas at the SFLA office. You've written a lot about what's going on in Texas. What have we missed from this discussion, or what have you found just hearing what's going on in Texas that you want folks?
What we like to say about
to
Texas
really
is that Texas
from.
Is where Roe v. Wade started. It's the state that instigated this entire problem. And so we really are taking responsibility in this state. I think now this new pro-life generation has grown up with abortion being the status quo. We didn't have kids in our classrooms that should have been there because they were aborted. We don't have siblings that should be here because they were aborted. And this problem started here. We intend to be the source of the solution, and that's what we're seeing on multiple fronts. So this heartbeat bill, this novel civil enforcement mechanism that's allowing us to save lives and hopefully will be replicated in other states. We've also been one of the pioneers of the sanctuary city movement. So Texas, I know a lot of people who watch this have probably heard of sanctuary cities. You've interviewed Mark Lee Dixon, who really got that movement started. He's going at a hyper-local level, city by city, and talking to mayors and city councilors and saying, your city in the state of Texas has enforceable options to actually outlaw abortion within city limits. And he's gone and done it in dozens of cities. He's helped these city councils pass these sanctuary city ordinances to protect the preborn from the abortion industry. But what really invigorated me last year was to see what happened in Lubbock, because that was the first city in the United States, here in Texas. Lubbock, Texas was the first city to pass a sanctuary city ordinance where Planned Parenthood was already operating. So that's what was novel about Lubbock. Planned Parenthood had to stop killing babies because the city of Lubbock, the people of Texas, our motto is don't mess with Texas. Don't mess with Texas babies either, because we will kick you out of our city if you do. And so now Planned Parenthood is on notice here in Texas. And I think that they're starting to realize that this is going to become a nationwide trend. It already has started to be a nationwide trend. And I'm really happy just kind of carrying the burden of being the state that started Roe v. Wade, seeing these things that Texas is offering to the rest of the country as we move toward the Dobbs ruling and hopefully reversing Roe v. Wade. It gives me a lot of encouragement, and hopefully the rest of the pro-life movement, who I know you're tired, it's been almost 50 years, but there really are new novel concepts that are being implemented, and they are working, and they are a reason for hope.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was so excited. We were even be able to play a small part. Our Students Life Action organized door knocking in Lubbock, and so our national organization was able to recruit students to go out to Lubbock and to door knock before the election, because the city council put it up for a vote. Yeah. And it was, well over a 60% majority voting to kick the Planned Parenthood. And I believe the week of the March for Life, I saw Mark Lee. He was at the summit, the National Pro-Life Summit, and I saw him actually in the green room EWTN, and he was telling me just that day they had gotten the final word that the Planned Parenthood there in Lubbock had dropped their lawsuit. And they're not going to contest it. So, this is a clinic that's been shut down since June, before even the Texas heartbeat law went into effect, using the civil enforcement. So this is significant. We are so excited to be partnering with Mark Lee with the Sanctuary City effort. We've already told him whenever you need students at city council meetings or door knocking, we will be there. And we've tried to keep up with him as fast as we can, because it is growing, and there's so many folks across the country going, hey, I want to do this too. What else, Chelsey, do we need to be thinking about? What about this legislation, this fund that was set up in Texas for women? Can you talk a little bit about what the Texas Women's Aid Fund, I'm butchering the name, what it's doing, and how that's helping women? Because it's like this 1-2 punch, right? You make abortions illegal, but then at the same time, we're also supporting women with tangible dollars.
Yes, I think that I love the way you said that, because it has to be a balance. Yes, we're going to regulate abortion, but yes, we're going to serve their moms and serve these women in need, because women are seeking abortion a lot of times out of desperation. And I think when we truly understand who they are and can meet those needs, we're going to see that decrease in abortion. Nationwide, we have almost 1 million women a year still seeking abortion. So if the entire country outlaws abortion tomorrow, those are children being born into difficult circumstances, and we want stabilized homes. We want these families to flourish as a movement. That's what our movement is built on. It's built on love and serving these women. So a great example of that in Texas is the Alternatives to Abortion program. It has
there you go. Sorry, I was butchering.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It has $100 million now every 2 years going to women who are seeking abortion, and it's things like signing them up for Medicaid, making sure they have parenting classes. If they need a job, we get them a job. If they need safe housing, we find them safe housing. And it really just enables these women to really get to the next level and have that stabilized circumstance so they can breathe and ultimately choose life, which is what we know they really want in their hearts. So we are starting to see other states replicate that model. I hope they continue down that path, even in a post-Roe world. I think that's actually more necessary than ever. And so to anyone out there who gets pushed back from the left, the truth is we love women and we serve women.
I would add
ways,
to that. So Human Coalition has researched, and you guys kind of touched on this earlier, but Human Coalition has researched, why do women seek abortions? Do they want the abortion, or is there something else going on? The Guttmacher Institute, which is extremely pro-abortion, as you know, they report, their wording is that women typically seek abortion because they feel they have no other choice. And Human Coalition data shows that 76% of women that they talk to who are seeking an abortion tell them that they wouldn't be seeking an abortion if their circumstances were different. So when we talk about this $100 million investment into serving women, it's not that we're trying to bribe women away from abortion with resources. We're actually answering the question that the women are asking is, how can you help me so that I don't feel backed into the corner of abortion? And we should really be asking why Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, who get all of this public and private funding, haven't haven't spent any of that money answering that question for those 76% of women who don't want the abortion. For the woman that the Guttmacher Institute says typically will choose an abortion because she feels she has no other choice, it's Texas and these programs like the one that Human Coalition participates in, that is actually answering the question, how can we change your circumstances so that you don't feel that abortion is your only choice and you're enabled to embrace life, because that's ultimately what women want. And it's the pro-life movement that is helping them with that.
That's absolutely right. And I think that's really important, that word circumstance. We've heard that a lot recently in the propaganda for why we need abortion, and talking about, really a woman's circumstances trumping the rights of the most vulnerable child, and those circumstances being greater and more important than the life of a human being. And so I think that's so important. And I think it's great when we talk about what's happened in Texas, we don't forget about the Aid for Women package and $100 million every 2 years that's flowing into that, because I think they go together. And I think it shows, the rest of the country how much we really do care, and we're ready and willing to put our money where our mouth is. So I love it. Chelsey and Lauren, thank you for joining me today. Thank you all for what you're doing there in Texas to lead the pro-life generation to making an abortion-free Texas, and that will lead to an abortion-free America. I can't wait to be with you all in a few weeks when the Hawkins family rolls into Texas in our RV. I'm so excited to finally be in Texas I haven't been there since
the air smells cleaner.
So I'm really excited. They need to have Lauren never wants to leave Texas. I want Texas welcome signs. It says welcome to Texas. When we lived in PA, I hated it. It was pursue your happiness, and but we need welcome to Texas, the state that loves babies, or don't mess with Texas babies. That needs to be the new slogan that's on the welcome sign. We should just pay for these billboards and put them right there on the borderline, because I think Texas needs to own this amazing victory for women and children across the country. So thanks for what you all are doing, and I can't wait to be with you. And thank you all for tuning in to this very special episode, in my opinion, the Explicitly Pro-Life podcast, to hear about what's happening in Texas since the Heartbeat Act went into effect. Hopefully this gave you some ideas, and hopefully gave you the push and the butt you need to go to your state house and demand that your representatives also vote in a heartbeat bill. If you live in the state of Florida, you actually had a heartbeat bill, and it was killed by some pro-lifers who then decided to do a 15-week bill. And we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode. But there is no excuse for this. These heartbeat bills save lives, and you've heard it right here. The lives that are being saved every single day in the state of Texas, and the sky has not fallen. So let's pass some heartbeat bills and save some babies. Bye, guys.